Greetings, Metallurgists. Hope you've been doing well. Marty Worm here with another Heavy Metallurgy album review. This time, we're together going to ponder the existence of mid-90s era inspired black/melodic death metal from Scandinavia by way of Ohio. It can be done, apparently. Stick around, we're going to get to the bottom of this. Today I'm here to discuss the fourth full-length album from Cincinnati, Ohio's Valdrin, called Throne of the Lunar Soul. It came out this past Friday, November 24th, 2023, on Blood Harvest. The fact that this band is geographically so close to where I live, and the fact that this band, Valdrin, and the few bands that the members were in before going to Valdrin, never heard of those either. So it's like, what have I been doing with my life? How did I fall out of the loop here? I used to have a pretty good finger on the pulse of what was going on in the Midwest, but things have gotten out of hand, I guess. But I gotta say, the level of complexity and excellent songwriting, very mature, deep songwriting on this record, it inspired me to maybe investigate more from not only Valdrin, but maybe a couple of the bands that made up what Valdrin became. Anyway, I'm here to talk about Throne of the Lunar Soul. We can go all day talking about the what ifs and the swings and the misses, but I gotta say, this is a symphonic/melodic black metal album that first listen instantly perked my ears, hearing what I initially took as a older era Dimmu Borgir influence due to very atmospheric and world building synth lines that permeate the bulk of this album. And also there's some acoustic guitar/classical guitar accompaniment, which could stand on its own and also interact with the distorted guitars. So this is a band that looks to that era to embellish the music they're making today, which they find their own path within an obvious influence by writing very strong songs that utilize, there's a little bit of a prog influence. There's some more technical guitar lines that creep in here and there to complicate. There is a constant building up and tearing down within the composition of this album. The songs are very well constructed to take a listener on a journey, not only a journey within the song, but everything put together from start to finish, a journey, which makes sense because we're going to go back a little bit of history here. The band has released 4 full-length albums, beginning with their 2014 debut, Beyond the Forest. What makes this interesting is this album introduced the band's Audier mythos tale, which is a storyline that forms the lyrical basis of all their albums. So not only is it a concept album for each record, it is a 4-album long concept. So take that, King Diamond, Grandma, leave the hall. The band has got a storyline they've been nurturing for 4 albums, which is incredibly impressive. Musically, Throne of the Lunar Soul, it tells a tale sonically. The band is very forward-thinking, and instead of falling into either the Satanist model or the anti-cosmos model or any of the other tired staples that are out there in the black metal world, they've chosen to go their own path. They've made their own tale, and they're telling it, and I gotta give them an applaud for that, for sure. It's bold and a little groundbreaking. But how does that translate into the music? The riffs center on hook-laden melody lines and advanced harmonies. Very much advanced harmonies all over this thing. Soaring lead work. The guitar player is top-notch, and not only can he, as I mentioned earlier, add more complex technical guitar lines, he never loses sight of melody. He never loses sight of what the song needs. And yes, things might get a little more complex at times, but they always revert back to a foundation that feels comfortable. It feels nurturing. Like it wants you to continue down the path. It doesn't want to push you away with alienating guitar lines and perplexing themes musically. This building up of technical lines and establishing more of a flowing world-building atmosphere, it really adds a nice dimension to this album from start to finish. I think we should explore this journey and building up and tearing down of sonic matter by going over the tracks. Some of these are standouts to me. We're not going through every single one, but I do want to touch upon some of the finer moments of the album. And we're going to start right off with Never After. There's an acoustic guitar piece in this, and that coexists with very warm synth tones. This right away told me, Dimmu Borgir, the old style Dimmu Borgir, which instantly I'm hooked. I'm in. I want to hear where these guys go. But what is revealed as the track progresses is a dawn and dissection influence with highly melodic riffs. They never lose sight of an earworm. There's always a hook. There's always a resolve that makes sense. It never, again, pushes the listener away. Second track, Golden Walls of Audier. I really like how the first minute or two of the song starts off with blasting, bombastic drum work, and the riffs follow suit, very fast and intense. But then the track slows down into more of a mid-paced crawl for the rest of the song, which demonstrates that Valdrin can write engaging tracks full of dynamics. The synth breakdown at the midway point, and there's also another breakdown. When I say breakdown, I mean the drums drop away and there's either just a synth line or the drums fall away and there's a guitar line that stands on its own. It introduces a new chapter to the song. It keeps this material very mature and exciting. It starts and stops, but it never snaps you out of the spell or the tale. It keeps you engaged throughout the whole thing. Around the 5-minute, 59-second mark, there's a great synth and guitar solo interaction, like a call and response type of thing. Makes the track feel very theatrical, which is another thing. When you start getting, borrowing influence from symphonic black metal, there is a theatrical element that the better bands can achieve, and some of the bands that maybe are not as advanced struggle with. Valdrin, they got it. They understand what it takes to be theatrical without being too pompous or overbearing with it. It's a good balance here. All right. Okay, third track, Seven Swords in the Arsenal of Steel. A slight prog influence enters the album in the feel and presentation of the guitar line. As you know, I'm not a big fan of prog, but it is done so subtly here, it just adds a flavor that actually works really well for me. It makes it feel technically more advanced, only to be smoothed out by very atmospheric synth lines which creep in as well. Again, Valdrin are very good at incorporating synth lines either as a background texture or bringing it more to the forefront with just a piano sound or just a straight up very organic sounding synth tone. Very well done. Paladins of Assad is next. I really love the interaction of speedy melodic guitar lines held aloft by a very airy synth passage. Bands like Emperor and Dimmu Borgir did this with amazing effect in the early years, and Valdrin continues the tradition on this record. They're very, very good at layering in the darkness and the light in with the metal core of the record. A little later in the album, we've got the Hierophant. I really like the chaotic music break in the middle of the record with blast beats, which intensifies the journey and proves that Valdrin left nothing off the table when constructing this album. It doesn't matter if they're going slower. They never go slow enough to enter the doom sphere, but they stick to a mid-pace up as far as tempos go. They alternate between them to accommodate whatever the song needs. Again, very mature songwriting. That brings us up to Vagrant in the Chamber of Night, which is one of my favorite songs on the album. I really enjoy the more complex and free-flowing guitar work on this track. Adds a lot of life, only to be further empowered by piano and lofty synth lines. Well-constructed track. Synth lead? Yeah, there's a synth lead in here. Rick Wakeman, eat your heart out. And that comes up to one of my least favorite songs on the album called Holy Matricide. There was no way Valdrin was going to sneak that almost note-for-note emulation of Thorns of Crimson Death by Dissection under the radar. They were too close. They were too close in feel and presentation. The nod of appreciation is duly noted and doesn't derail this otherwise good track, even if they went a bit too deep in saluting their influences for sure. I mean, it wasn't 30 seconds into the song and it made me want to turn it off and listen to Thorns of Crimson Death. It is that close. And even the way they structured the song moving forward, it's the same key, similar transition here and there. They could have done better on this one. And, you know, as a guitar player, you tend to take in your influences and it becomes part of your DNA. So I've been in a position where I wrote part of a song and realized after the fact that the riff that I loved so much was a Carcass riff, note for note. So it happens. I don't know if it was intentional here or if it was one of those mishaps, but it's there. And again, it doesn't detract from the album for me, but come on. This brings us up to Throne of the Lunar Soul, which is another one of my favorite songs on this album for sure. I really like the slower, more evocative, if not sad, melody lines that carries this song, that carries throughout the bulk of this song. It gives the album more of an accessible or gentle footprint. Vocals never stray from the harsh screams, which is a nice juxtaposition between the more accessible, gentle feel to that ever-present scream just flowing over the top. And speaking of the vocalist, I should have looked up his name. I did not. But he maintains a higher mid-range scream throughout the whole album, other than one spoken passage part, which is actually tastefully done. I really like the fact that he stays within a pleasing register that fits quite well within the symphonic, melodic black metal feel. He maintains a tone, but he can take it up higher into higher screams, higher registers, and occasionally he goes even lower, a little more brutal. Every once in a while. He doesn't use that style very often, but when the song calls for it, he can fluctuate within his range, which is great. And I also like the fact that he doesn't follow the riffs verbatim. He finds his own path in these songs that uplifts and empowers and helps the storyline move forward as this tale flows throughout the entirety of the album. Also in this Throne of the Lunar Soul, there's a very nice touch they put around the 7-minute-ish mark. There's a choir accompaniment, like a choir. It's kind of muddied a little bit purposefully. It almost sounds like a choir singing all down in the bottom of a ravine or something. And I really like how the choir comes in and they build upon it. They take the harmony that the choir is providing, and they start adding, the guitars to it, and the metal to it. Really tastefully done. It adds more depth and atmosphere to an already very powerful, emotive song. Throne of the Lunar Soul, title track, one of my favorites on the album as well, for sure. Yes, there are several other songs that close out the album, but ultimately, this is so well done, other than the one dissection misstep on the record that, again, it was annoying at first, but the song is so good, it's hard to dislike it or call it a strike on the album. The album is very well composed and strong, and another thing that helps, fortify the power of this album is the production. This day and age, there's a lot of very digital sounding productions out there. And when it comes to symphonic or atmospheric black metal, if you put too modern of a production on it, it kind of defeats the purpose of the atmosphere the music tries to uphold. And in the case of Throne of the Lunar Soul, they got it right. It's a very organic, warm production. Sometimes there's a lot of layers happening, from a piano line over a synth with multiple guitar lines. You can hear all the drums. You can hear every single layer that builds the foundation of this album and the songs. The vocals sit exactly where they need to in the mix. There's nothing out of place. And I really like the tone of the synth, very warm, organic sounding, and it all congeals together and has that atmospheric mid-90s vibe, which I've always been a fan of, always will be a fan of, and bands that try to emulate it, they always perk my interest and get the seal of approval for sure. So production, you're going to get clarity and a warmth, which is what something like this needs. And you can hear everything, all the instruments are in the place they need to be. In closing, Valdrin, they came out of nowhere for me. I was just going through our promo list trying to figure out what I was going to review next, and I clicked on this, and it was halfway through the first song. I'm like, I'm reviewing this. I really like this. And the way the album was composed and considered in the songwriting, I think it's exceptional. For those of you that want to know where to put this, another band that these guys remind me of stateside would be another band that kind of tries to uphold the Scandinavian mid-90s black metal aesthetic, which would be Stormkeep. I ended up liking the full-length Stormkeep debut. I didn't care much for the mini CD. And if I were to compare Stormkeep to Valdrin, I think I like Valdrin better. I think they do it better. I think they've got better songwriting. The musicianship is exceptional. I love the lead work on here. The solos really stand out. I love how they go from technical to a slight prog tinge to just really solid, well-written songwriting. It's just, I'm very impressed by this album, and I can see these guys as at the forefront of the new wave of the don't start another. I'm not going to start the new wave of US black metal. I don't want to start another tag, but these guys are right up there with Stormkeep. If you like Stormkeep and you like, the 90s era of the Swedish black metal scene, the symphonic black metal, Valdrin should be on your radar. They're on my radar now. I've got some catching up. There's 3 other albums I need to dive into, but this one's available and ready to go on Blood Harvest. So definitely check it out. Links will be in the description to the band, the label where you can get this thing, and definitely give Throne of the Lunar Soul your attention. It's a good one. And that wraps this review. If you like these reviews, guess what? We do them every week on Heavy Metallurgy. And if you enjoy what you see here, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, all the fun stuff. It helps the channel grow for sure. Every Wednesday, we have an album club, and every Friday, our normal weekly streams. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And until next time, thanks a lot. Take care.